I'm Marjorie, and my presentation is on Jack the Ripper. Okay, did you know that Jack the Ripper may have been a woman? No one knows whether he was a man or a woman, but many people believe he was a man, but there is a possibility that he was a woman. This presentation is relevant to you because it kind of helps teach you not to always believe, I guess, what you hear, even in like textbooks. They might say something, but there's always like two sides of the story, and then there's always the truth. One person's side, the other person's side, and the truth. So you never know the actual truth. How this is relevant to me, I kind of have an obsession with the late 1800s, early 1900s, and I kind of like writing historical fiction novels. I'm currently writing one on the Romanovs, but my next one I want to write is on Jack the Ripper, or Jill the Ripper, so who is the female version, Jack the Ripper. Okay, what he is known for, of course, he's known for being a serial killer in London. He was most known as that he killed at least 5 women. Most of them were, of course, prostitutes, but not all of them actually were. I believe only one of them wasn't a prostitute. And the most places he killed them were in the East End and in Whitechapel, which, of course, it was at night, so it was dark in alleyways. Not many people could see him at all. Who he's been suspected to be, most people presumed by his looks, for the person on the first intro page was Thomas Neal. He was one of the suspects. They suspected it was a man who was white, tall, and wore a top hat, and had a mustache. But if you also like look up the average look for the person in the late 1800s, was a tall white man with a top hat and a mustache. So not very helpful. And of course, then there's the woman theory. Most men, they presumed, were the only people who could actually kill like 5 women, and they would have had to been around doctors, so they actually knew how to use a knife and knew all the internal organs. But women, some people believe women did, because the only woman who could have done it would be a midwife, because she would also have the intelligent knife skills and also know the anatomy of the body. Who science believes he is. There has been a DNA finding from one of the women's shawls of a man named Arian. I forgot his last names, then it's really hard to pronounce, so I did not add it. His occupation, though, was a barber, so he only really knew kind of how to use a knife, but I don't really see how it could have been him, because he would have had the training to know the anatomy of the body. And of course, he lived a little bit near like East End and Whitechapel, right in the area of where most of these murders happens. How Jack the Ripper killed his victims. This is one of the least gory pictures I found, but Jack the Ripper would slit most of his victims' throats and then cut open their bodies and pull out usually their reproductive organs. For his last kill, her name was Mary Kelly. He slit her throat, but he like took out all of her organs, all of her intestines, reproductive organs, and set them aside. He even took out her heart, which they believe he kept since it wasn't found among her remains at all. How he got his name. There was a letter that was given to the police that was found, and it was started off with Dear Boss, so it became known as the Dear Boss letter. Talked about kind of like gory details of like whatever was kind of going on in his mind at the time, and it was signed Jack the Ripper. So that's how he kind of got his name. It later became known that this letter was actually false and was written by a journalist, kind of get his 15 minutes of fame and to publish more papers. After this letter came out, many more letters did come out as well. claiming that they knew who Jack the Ripper was, claiming that he wrote to them as well, which of course also rendered this letter useless, since no evidence was actually really found at all.